Hello, I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley.
And I'm her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Heidi and I want to welcome you to Open to Hope Conversations, the podcast.
We believe that the greatest gift you can give yourself after a loss is hope, using this moment to connect with others who have not only survived but thrived.
So let's get started. Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
As experts in the field of grief and loss, we're super excited to be tuning into ABC's Golden Bachelor and following along with Gary Turner's senior dating journey.
Yes, Mom, it's exciting. And this show was really interesting and had a twist at the end, which I'm not going to spoil right now. But it started out with 6 women. And at the end, there were 3 who got hometown roses, which means next week, Gary will be meeting their families.
It's really heartfelt because, Gary's a widower and he is so with it and so emotional. And there's some widows on the show. And, it's just so wonderful to see people thinking about dating. And there's been a lot written in the papers and everything about it, Heidi. And to bring up this topic that there is love after loss and that you can find a partner again after losing your partner. It's really been inspiring.
Well, and that's what a lot of the women say. They say, after divorce or death of a partner, we didn't think we'd find love again. And Gary has shown us that we can find love again.
Absolutely. And along with talking about the show, we're going to be giving you 3 tips on how to have heartfelt conversations when you get into those kind of dating. So, Heidi, I'd like to bring my fiance in for this.
Great. I am again honored to interview you and your fiance, Dr. Frank Powers. And you are both known also as the dating doctors. Here they are, people in the house. Oh, yeah.
And the dating doctors are in the house. My husband of 60 years passed away. And Frank and I, when I was ready to date, met online. Yeah.
And it was wonderful. We suggested everyone.
So, Frank, I wanted to start out with these heartfelt conversations. I want to give you 3 tips first.
Oh, I'd love to hear them.
All right. The first one is to share your personal journey. That's a great thing you can do in conversation. Think about, I'm going to share my personal journey and the lessons I've learned. Yeah. So that's one thing that you can do in conversation. Then the second thing you can do, I know you like to discuss dreams.
Oh, I love dreams. You are my dream.
You can discuss dreams, passions, and things that bring you joy. Mm-hmm. So that's another. And the third is to explore your joint fears and vulnerabilities. Yes. And we see a lot of that on the Golden Bachelor. And because these can foster empathy and compassion, because we can see Gary coming in.
Oh my gosh. And if there's anything that this program, the Golden Bachelor, has shown, is you cannot be a Debbie Downer and date people. You need to be positive. You need to emphasize the things that you have in common, their connections, and how you feel, and be authentic. That is the big thing that
absolutely.
I think that
yeah. So quite a show today, right, Heidi?
It absolutely was. And I think also timing is important, because when you start talking about yourself and your struggles, I think that's a little later on in the dating situation. You now are seeing women starting to talk more candidly about the tough parts of their lives. But Gary is so good at supporting and empathizing and nurturing these women. I'm completely.
But the only way he can do it is that when they become vulnerable. They have to tell him in conversation.
I think one of the reasons why the women have been so into him is that he really is what I would refer to as a feminist male. In other words, he really enjoys empathy, emotions, deep conversations. And I do think women really appreciate that about a man. And I think that's important for all of these men who are older, that they've got to give up those early 30-something kind of things about wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It's really more about listening, being empathetic and caring. And that's what he's showing.
And we saw it on the helicopter. Okay, the date.
Yes.
The date, we go to a helicopter and we've got faith in the helicopter right? And she is really talking about her childhood, her hard times.
I know. And it's wonderful how empathetic and how he comforts her. He is a comforter in chief.
But also she reveals.
Yes, she does. And that's what brings the heart out in him. And I think it's one of the reasons why she is one of the people that is going to visit
And she
them.
talks about her fear. I have a fear of being vulnerable.
Yes, yes. And you do have to talk about your fears. I
Yeah.
mean, that is important for another person to know you and be able to respond empathetically. If you want an empathetic male, then you have to let them know what your vulnerability is.
Yeah. And
Well,
Gary,
she's fearful of heights and they're on a helicopter together. And like he says, I love what he says. He's very supportive. He says, look, this is a great place for you to conquer this fear, and I'll be here for you, and help you through it.
so don't be afraid to be vulnerable.
Yes, yes. And you have to be real. And she was.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I think she made it.
She disclosed a lot. I mean, she even said at one point that she was homeless as a teenager.
Yeah. And yeah, that was really showing her vulnerability and her hopes that this is going to be better, her dreams.
Yeah, well, and really, in a sense, I think Jerry just absolutely eats it up when he feels needed and he thinks that he can be there and help a person through a difficult situation. He does like to be the knight in shining armor.
Absolutely. And he certainly is.
And do you know what he said about Faith? He said she may be the one.
I know, you never know. We'll see.
I don't know about that because Teresa.
Well,
wow, we've got to remember.
And Leslie, you've got to say that Leslie is in there because she's also showing a lot of vulnerability, talking about her 2 marriages and 2 failed marriages, and that she selects wrong people, and that she hopes this time that she can pick the right person, and she thinks that he is the right person.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what happened with the other women that went off? What did you think about that?
I was shocked about Ellen.
Yes.
Shocked. I thought she'd make it to the very last minute. In fact, I thought maybe she was the one.
Yeah. But you
yes.
know, she didn't exactly get her vulnerability.
No. She made a lot of really wonderful statements, and I think that Ellen and he went out with her and told her how much he appreciated her, because she really, in a sense, said, you know, if Gary is not the one, I now know I want one person in my life.
And we love that. You know, when these women go off the show, Frank and I are so inspired because we think that hopefully they know that there are possibilities out there.
And they know they can feel something for someone again. A lot of times people are not even aware. Can I ever feel the way I felt about my first love? I mean, is this possible that I can fall in love again? And I think that one of the things that Ellen points out is, and rightfully so, is yes. And that loving someone isn't a failure. What it does is get you ready for the next person to come into your life to be the right one.
You know, when he had her go off the show, wow, I was thinking as a widower, and he's a widow, this is hard for him. Wow. You know,
you can see it in his face. I mean, he's not a happy puppy when he gets
saw that after the
goodbye.
Saw that after the group date. It was so hard for him at Santa Monica Pier that he couldn't give anyone the rose that night.
He
had to sleep on it. And like he said, I was up all night trying to figure out who was not going to get the rose and who was. It was a very difficult decision for him.
Yeah. So having had that loss as a widower, he goes deep.
Yeah. No. I think he's a very feeling, very empathetic, really sensitive person. And I think that's one of the reasons why most of the women, I think, genuinely have really wanted to have a connection with him, because I think that's what many women are looking for, is exactly the qualities that Gary shows.
Absolutely. 3 people left by the end.
And this is the important period, because certainly Gloria and I through the years have come to the understanding that it's the family connections. It's the connections that really, in a sense, kind of cements the fact that this is the relationship, because you're not just having a relationship with one person,
Mhm.
Heidi. You're having a relationship with a lot of people, lovely people like yourself and your sisters.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you're getting involved with someone, you're getting involved with their family as well, like you said, Dr. Frank.
Exactly. And the family is an important part
Yeah.
of what makes a relationship successful.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have family support, it's very difficult to have the kind of relationship you deserve.
Well, this is early family support too. And the next week, I'm going to be excited to see about the family, if they even
Yes.
have if anybody has any questions at the beginning, because, when you really get into the relationship, you
Well,
really have to work
some of
through it.
them, and even though he's such a nice guy, some of them might have questions about whether he's really the appropriate person for their mother or their sister or
Right.
their grandmother.
Well, and you hear at the end when they kind of give you a little teaser of next week, there is somebody that comes on and says, I don't want my mother to get hurt.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's not an unusual thing to happen. And I think that it is important for the person who's coming into the family to be willing to talk to the family members and let them know that the interest is genuine and they're not going to hurt their relative. They're not going to hurt the person that they love.
So, Frank, let's kind of review these tips a little bit.
Okay.
Share your personal journeys and lessons you've learned. I think these women have been doing this throughout the series.
Yes. Yes.
And with Jerry.
And the people who are now going to see their families with Jerry have all been vulnerable and showed.
And will be showing their personal journeys.
Yeah.
Discuss your dreams, passions, and what brings you joy. The high point is important, isn't it?
Well, and I think all of them have let Jerry know how they feel about him.
Yeah. Teresa just told him she loved him at the pier.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, how about Ellen really put it all out before she left? It was really.
Yes. And it was obviously very painful for her to
Both of them
leave, but she did say, this just gets me ready for finding the person.
Which is exciting. So explore your joint fears and vulnerabilities as they can foster empathy and compassion. I would say that's a big one.
Wow, that's what this program has been all about. Them showing their vulnerabilities, and the passion and the connection grows. And you can see Gary move in and get closer to someone once they show their vulnerability. And I do think it makes it easier for any person to feel like, wow, okay, this person really, in a sense, is not perfect either. And I'm not perfect. Hey, this is wonderful. I wouldn't want to be with someone that's perfect because I'm not perfect.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's not what he's looking for. He's looking for an authentic, real person.
Yeah.
Right.
And it acts perfect.
And we hope that people who are watching this podcast or listening to it will think about these tips and will also get out there and date.
Yes. Get over your fear and reluctance to get yourself out there, because it's the only game in town.
And Frank and I believe that there's somebody out there for everybody.
There certainly was for us.
Absolutely. I agree with y'all. Our hearts are big. We can love again after loss.
Exactly.
And I am looking forward next week to the hometowns with our 3 remaining bachelorettes. Let's see, they're Leslie, Teresa, and Faith. So let's see what happens. And I'm looking forward to tuning in with the dating doctors to hear your perspective.
All right.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Yes. Bye, Hyde.
We always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own. And God bless.
I'm Dr. Heidi Horsley. You have been listening to Open to Hope, the podcast. You can follow Open to Hope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn more, visit us at opentohope.com and go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe.
I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. Join us again next week for another Open to Hope conversation, where we invite you to lean on our hope until you find your own.